Good morning. I'm John Ellsworth, founder of Success Strategies Incorporated and the creator of the Success Strategies Advantage. And I want to thank you for listening today. My presentation this morning is entitled, Were They Planning to Fail? Were they planning to fail? I recently met with a prospect, a business prospect, and it was a very interesting conversation. He just, for the life of me, just didn't know how he got in the current challenges that he was facing. And this it's interesting. He told me all the things that have been happening, but he didn't know how he could possibly gotten in the situation he's in. But I made a couple suggestions to him, and hopefully, I'm hoping that'll yield 100,000 of extra income for him, revenue, and potentially maybe he'll net most of that as well. But his story, his situation reminded me of the two cowboys that were, you've probably seen this, where they were leaning back on the fence and they're staring at a cow, and the cow is obviously starving to death, and they look at her and they go, we just don't know how this happened, but all of a sudden she just took a turn for the worse. Well, the reality is she was starving and they weren't paying attention. Not paying attention can get you in a lot of trouble in business, whether you're feeding cows like they were, or in their case, not feeding the cow. But anyway, I think this not paying attention and letting things just happen on their own is far too common today in business. We hear the excuses of, with COVID and inflation and high interest rates that came along now, and now we're getting hit with some tariffs. All of those things happen, not at the same time. They all happen at various times, and if it isn't those four events, it's something else. But you have to go through business and life expecting that there will be challenges. We can build up a cushion for these if you're running a business. Cushion number one is called a little cash reserve. You can do that. And if you aren't in a position to do that, that means you're not making money probably. And so you are in a position to get some help and get some turnaround in your business, so to speak. We can also build cushion like this in good times by paying down our revolving lines of credit. Because instead of thinking, wow, I can make 3.5%, 4% interest on a savings account right now, how about saving 7.5% by not having the balance outstanding? Pay it down. It's there when you need it, if you need it later on. And I think ultimately it's a mental task that we're dealing with here as well. And I will summarize it by saying this. Tough times don't last, and tough people do. Tough times do not last, but tough people do. You've got to be tough. Here's what I suggest you do. If you're facing a situation like the two cowboys with the starving cow, or the prospect that I met with who had no earthly idea how he got into the situation he was, and it was, I'm not going to give you a lot of detail, but I will tell you it was financially challenging. But there were some, I call them Captain Obvious steps that I suggested to him, and I hope they help him. Anyway, the thing we need to do in any situation like this, or anything similar to this, is number one, create a plan. Create a plan. Let's figure out what we want to do as part of that plan. Author and speaker Stephen Covey, the late Stephen Covey, had always said, and you've heard this before, and I quote, begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind, end of quote. And the reason for that is, as they said in Alice in Wonderland, if you don't really know where you're going, any road will take you there. And the reality is, it sounds silly, but the reality is, we need to know where we want to go. And then we start laying out a plan for it. There will be obstacles, I assure you there will be. But the key, the smart people will figure out, yes, there are obstacles. I have them in my business too. But what we need to do is figure out how we can mitigate these. And that's particularly effective when you're talking to your lender, because he or she is also going to look at it and go, gosh, I don't know, how's this going to, what if this happens, or what if that happens? Think it through. How would you mitigate those things? So begin with the end in mind, lay out the obstacles and how you'll overcome them. And then I would add, set some deadlines for these various steps that you need to take to get toward your goal, toward your objective, and decide if you don't decide by when you're going to do, the date by which you're going to do these, they just become oblivious and you never really get there. The other thing is decide who's going to do implementation of these various steps. Because otherwise, you could be like the four guys that, you've heard of them probably: everybody, anybody, somebody, and nobody. Well, they had a plan and everybody knew what needed to be done. And of course, anybody could have done those steps, taken the action steps. Somebody certainly should have, but in the end, nobody ever did. And what happened was they got zero results. So my suggestion again, plan for some cushion, plan for some success, and then build that plan around these various steps. Overcoming obstacles, deciding when and by whom these steps will be accomplished, achieved, and then go ahead and implement the plan. Because overall, it is like a roadmap. It will keep you on course and keep you out of the ditch. So I want to thank you for listening today. I'm John Ellsworth, founder of Success Strategies Incorporated and the creator of the Success Strategies Advantage. Thank you very much.